as well as it'll be posted to our YouTube page.
Tenemos a 70 participantes y posiblemente tendremos a 80. Va a ser transmitido en vivo y se publicará en el YouTube.
Folks are going to be muted by default, and that's just so that we can prevent, to the extent possible, any technical glitches, and then also provide the best opportunity for feedback.
El volumen se apagará automáticamente para evitar fallos técnicos lo más posible y así permitiremos que los participantes puedan expresar sus opiniones.
I think, we have a really incredible group tonight. We've got board members. I think Dr. Faust may be joining us if he's not already on. We've got senior staff members. My team is here. We've got educators, family, local leaders, business owners. We've got students. And so it's a really exciting opportunity to have you folks provide input to the strategic plan.
Tenemos a un grupo increíble, miembros de la Junta, el superintendente de las escuelas, miembros del personal directivo, la división de comunicación, educadores, familias, líderes locales e incluso estudiantes. Mantengan la conversación profesional y prudente, por favor.
And I'll say that in English because I missed it. Just please maintain, let's have productive conversations, professional conversations. And just so you know, we'll monitor the chat and the transcript of that chat should you be able to provide input there or have questions. We'll also provide that transcript to the strategic plan.
Supervisaremos el chat y se proporcionará una transcripción de todo lo que hablemos para la señora Hunter y Park para analizar lo más profundo. Y también si ya han hecho una encuesta para este evento, por favor, no vuelvan a hacerla una segunda vez.
Okay, and with that, Nancy and Pamela, over to you.
Y ahora va a hablar la señora Nancy y Pamela.
Okay, thank you very much. I am now going to share the short PowerPoint. And I will pause for the interpretation as we go through. Just a little about us. I'm Hunter. I have been doing consulting with nonprofits and governments for many years, working with strategic plans, management and organizational capacity. And I found this way of planning has been a wonderful way to gather data, to get everyone on the same page, and to get all stakeholders engaged in the plan.
La señora Nancy ha estado trabajando para relaciones públicas y haciendo estrategias planeadas por más de 20 años y ella se ha dado cuenta que haciendo ese trabajo y uniendo a todos los que están involucrados en el proceso es muy importante para recibir la información correcta.
And I will let Dr. Pamela Palmer introduce herself, and also, Pamela, if you would introduce Dr. Burgess, who's helping.
Sure. So I am Pamela Palmer, and I am the second consultant on the strategic planning project with your school system, and we appreciate the opportunity to be able to work in this capacity. I have been working with organizations in the strategic planning sphere, I would say, for probably 25 or more years. And so I do have a background in community development, community engagement, and working with communities in terms of building community capacity to engage in processes like the one that Nancy and I are facilitating for New Hanover County Schools. I appreciate the opportunity to serve in this capacity.
La doctora Palmer, ella es la segunda consultante en el plan estratégico, ha trabajado en estos planes por más de 20 años desarrollando la comunidad y estos procesos de planes y aprecia la oportunidad de estar aquí con nosotros ayudándonos en este proceso.
Thank you. And I believe Dr. Burgess is going to be our consultant who is going to make this Poll Everywhere wonderful app happen for us. So we thank her very much for joining us tonight as well.
Y la doctora Burgess va a estar ayudando con el proceso también.
So our process is about building a bridge between where the organization is now and where you want it to be. So that involves finding where we are, clearly finding that, and where we want to be, just like with a GPS. And once we know both those destinations, we can build the strategic actions to move forward.
El proceso es creando un puente de donde estamos actualmente y donde queremos ir, y en cuanto sepamos es el punto, los dos puntos es como un mapa, entonces vamos a saber qué es lo que queremos seguir haciendo.
So the process has a number of phases. We are in the first one right now. It is the longest one, where we are doing assessment. And that is where we try to listen to as many voices as we can to really learn and understand where the school district is now, where you want it to be, and that will help us develop the plan to go forward. Once we have the data, we can analyze it, bring it back, and develop the vision, the goals, strategies, and then we can finalize a plan with specific responsibilities and metrics for accountability, and develop a way to be sure to measure the progress on the plan as you move forward.
So, el proceso tiene 5 fases y ahorita estamos actualmente en la fase 1, donde están haciendo encuestas, entrevistas, grupos de enfoque para saber dónde estamos y qué es lo que queremos para las escuelas en el futuro. Y después de eso, vamos a tener una encuesta para varias personas que son los líderes de las escuelas, y luego un enfoque. Después de eso vamos a empezar a hacer el plan y a poder ver cuáles son las metas que queremos tener en ese plan y cuáles son las estrategias para poder llegar a lograr esos planes que tenemos y esas metas. Y quiénes son los que van a estar ayudando para asegurarnos que podamos cumplir lo que pongamos en el plan estratégico.
This is a picture visually of the calendar and where our phases are. Right now, we are in the long blue assessment phase, and this is a really key, important part because it will drive everything else that we do with our planning work.
Ahorita nosotros estamos en la etapa donde se enseña el azul, donde son las evaluaciones y las reuniones, y escuchando y agarrando información y analizándola, y esto es lo más importante porque esto va a dirigir cuáles van a ser nuestras metas y estrategias para el plan.
So that is a quick summary of our process and and our schedule and where we are. We want now for the rest of our time to be listening to you so that we can learn your thoughts and insights and incorporate them into the process.
Esa fue una breve descripción de lo que hemos estado haciendo y vamos a continuar a hacer, pero ahora queremos escucharlos a ustedes y cuáles son sus opiniones y sugerencias para el proceso.
With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Pamela Palmer, who's going to facilitate our discussion. And again, we are so grateful to be able to be with you here in this virtual space and to be able to learn from your thoughts and insights.
Yes, thank you. And I want to just remind everyone that we are speaking in a fashion so that interpretation can take place.
Y quiero recordarles a todos que estamos hablando de cierta forma porque queremos asegurarnos que la interpretación se pueda dar a los que lo ocupan.
So my task tonight, along with our colleague, Sylvia Burgess, is to engage us in a process so that we can retrieve feedback from you about what the priority areas should be in this next strategic plan for the new Hanover County school system. And so we're going to use a platform called Poll Everywhere. And I'm going to just let Dr. Burgess share with you just a little bit in just a little bit what and how we're going to utilize that.
Nuestra tarea de hoy es para recibir información del público, entonces vamos a estar usando un proceso que se llama Poll Everywhere y ahorita lo vamos a explicar para que todos puedan dar sus votos con las preguntas.
Dr. Burgess.
Okay, so I see that someone put in the instructions how to use Poll Everywhere. If you hadn't gotten the instructions ahead of time, they were sent out earlier so that everybody would have access to it. But you can either access it on another device if you're on your computer, or you can access it on the device that you're on just by going back and forth between the Zoom link and the Poll Everywhere. So if you will go ahead and log into Poll Everywhere, if you're using your phone, you can text it. If you're using the computer, all you have to do is go to the pollev.com and / Sylvia Burges 994 and type that in, and that'll bring up the poll.
Las instrucciones se mandaron previamente para el sistema de Poll Everywhere, pero también las incluimos en el chat. Pueden fijarse allí, hay dos formas de dar sus respuestas. Una es por teléfono, pueden textearlo, y la otra es por computadora.
Okay, Dr. Palmer, did you want to introduce the questions, or do you want me to just go ahead?
Yes, I will do that. Thank you, Sylvia. So we are going to focus on two questions. And again, the point here is for us to gather from you the top issues that are facing the new Hanover County school system, and in essence, what the focal point should be in the strategic plan.
Nos vamos a enfocar en dos preguntas y la meta es saber cuáles son los enfoques que debemos de tener y qué está afectando a las escuelas.
In addition to that, we also want to focus in and determine which of those issues that we identify should be our highest priority.
Adicionalmente, queremos también enfocarnos en cuáles de esos temas son la prioridad para nosotros.
And so the way this will work is, as you enter your feedback, a word map will form on the screen. And the more entries we get around a particular issue, the bigger that phrasing or that verbiage will be. And we will narrow that down from biggest to largest and see how many issues we should be focusing on overall. Okay. So the first question, I'm sorry.
¿Y cómo funcionará esto? Es como ustedes van respondiendo a las preguntas, se formará un mapa y nos podrá decir cuáles son los temas más importantes que ustedes piensan que son más importantes y que nos enfocaremos en, y cuáles son los temas más pequeños que podríamos enfocarnos para otra vez.
Dr. Palmer, we have a question in the chat. It says, unfortunately, they have to leave. Are they able to do Poll Everywhere and make comments later?
Dr. Palmer, we can leave it activated as long as necessary, and people can still go in it and do that. So I'll leave both questions activated until midnight tonight.
Una persona dijo que tenía que irse. Vamos a dejar para que puedan meterse por computadora y responder a las preguntas. hasta medianoche hoy.
And so our first question is, what are the top issues facing New Hanover County schools? You could begin entering your responses.
And Dr. Palmer, one final thing, if you have 2-word responses, if you want it to stay together, don't put a space between the words and then it'll be just a phrase.
La pregunta es, ¿cuáles son los principales problemas a los que se enfrentan las escuelas del condado de New Hanover? Y si quieren poner más de una palabra, pueden no poner en un espacio en medio y va a ser nada más una palabra.
Sylvia, there is looks like a question in the chat. Caress, I guess I'll pass that over to you to share what that question is.
I am having an error loading the page after choosing I am a participant.
Okay, tell the person to go out and to start again because it just jams sometimes for some people.
Una persona puso que está teniendo un mensaje de error cuando trata de meterse a la página después de poner que es un participante y le dijeron que por favor se salga de la página y la vuelva a subir porque a veces tiene cosas que así ayuda y ya pueden una segunda vez a ver si funciona.
And we will just be silent for a couple of more minutes. We want to give everyone a chance to enter their responses. And so we don't want to move too quickly.
Estaremos tomando unos más segundos para darles a todos la oportunidad de dar sus respuestas. No queremos hacerlo demasiado rápido.
And then I had another question, just to clarify, our answer should be one word. If we have a phrase to enter, we should enter that without spaces.
That is correct.
Alguien preguntó si nada más debemos de meter una pregunta y es más de una pregunta poner sin espacio, y eso es correcto.
And Dr. Palmer, if anybody is still having difficulty and cannot get in, if they put their words in the chat, we'll enter them into the poll.
Y si hay alguien que todavía está teniendo dificultad con la página, por favor pónganlo en el chat aquí y la agregaremos nosotros.
Also, if you agree with a phrase, you can re-enter that. That will add to the quantity of feedback that comes in related to that particular area. So if you did not put, let's say suspensions, let's say one of your top number 1 or 3, but you agree, you can also agree.
Si hay alguna palabra que ven y que están de acuerdo con ella, también la pueden agregar, porque le daría más puntos a ese tema.
So as you are observing the word map transform, the words and or phrases, the bigger ones, the larger ones, are an indication of the degree and level of responses that are coming in related to that. And so I'm going to give this, Dr. Burgess, you kind of guide me a little bit here, but I'm going to give us what maybe another, I can still see where there's some motion taking place. So that means people are still entering responses. So maybe another 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Vamos a esperar otros 30 segundos. Estamos viendo dónde siguen las personas agregando palabras, y las palabras que ven que están más grandes es porque estamos recibiendo más respuestas significantes con esas palabras, y por eso están más grandes.
And Dr. Palmer, because we're going to leave it open,
Mhm.
people will still be able to go and add comments to it if they think of something else or want to add something else.
Okay, thank you.
Y porque lo vamos a dejar abierto, entonces pueden seguir agregando cosas si piensan en algo más.
I'm counting, and as I'm counting, the image is changing. So, and I'm also recording. I just want our audience to know I'm following the map, and so I want to make sure I'm capturing the lead areas or top issues that we're thinking we need to focus on. So I'm going to go ahead and give that laundry list of focus areas. And if I miss something and someone else sees something that's here in the space with us, Nancy and Sylvia, please let me know. So it appears that equity is our largest focus area as it pertains to the map. And then it looks like communication is second, competing with safety. That is kind of third. And then I'm looking, bullying is coming maybe fourth. And I see inclusion and consistency and trust and segregation look as though they're coming in at fifth. Are you all seeing kind of what I'm seeing?
Yeah, and number 6 would be lack of staff. It's over to the side.
Okay.
Lo que está viendo la doctora Palmer,
Oh, yes.
cuáles son los números.
Thank you. Yes.
Revisó cuáles son los números y cuáles han estado votando que tienen más números, y se ve que el problema número 1 es la equidad en la comunidad. La segunda es la comunicación, la división de la gente, el bullying, y luego en quinto lugar está la inclusión, la consistencia y en la sexta, what was the sixth? Sorry.
Lack of staff. Yeah.
Dr. Palmer, it's actually lack of EC staff. That's what
lack of EC staff. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
La sexta es la necesidad de más empleados que trabajen con los niños que tienen discapacidades.
And I just want to make sure I'm paying attention to time. I did want to move into our second question, if I can. I'm going to give that list again before you stop sharing, Sylvia. So equity, communication, safety, bullying, suspensions, consistency, segregation, trust, inclusion, lack of EC staff.
Dr. Palmer, there's one other thing that is showing up on the map, but because people said it in different ways, but it's mental health. Mental health
Okay.
is up here 4 or 5 times, but people said it differently. So if they were all together, mental health would be a much larger bullet.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
So voy a repetir la lista de las cosas que eligieron que son más importantes ahorita. Es la equidad, la comunicación, la seguridad en las escuelas, el bullying, la inclusión, la consistencia, la segregación y la necesidad de más empleados que trabajan con los niños de discapacidades y también la salud mental.
Sylvia, will we be able to make these the choices on the next question?
No, it's
Okay.
You have to put they have to put it in. So
okay, no worries. Okay,
but
all right. So I'm gonna go. Yeah. So I'm gonna share the list again with our audience because the next question that we're gonna ask is we're gonna ask out of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It looks like it's what I have. Out of these 11 areas of focus or top issues that the school system is facing, our next question is going to be which of these 11 should be our highest priority. And I know that that's kind of hard maybe to narrow down, but just for the purpose of the work that we're doing tonight, I'm gonna challenge us to do that. So if we have 11, let's see, what are the top 6? If we could go there, because we're right at a dozen of the top issues. And so if you could identify your top 6, and then you're going to enter those for your response to our next question.
So los que acabo de mencionar, las 11 cosas, que es la equidad, comunicación, seguridad, el bullying, la inclusión, la consistencia, la segregación, la necesidad de más empleados con niños de discapacidad y la salud mental. Si pueden elegir 6 de esos, de los que piensan que son los más importantes. Sabemos que es difícil, pero nada más 6 pongan en esta segunda pregunta de cuáles de estos problemas deberíamos de ser nuestra próxima prioridad en la escuela.
And again, I'm silent, but I'm here. I'm just letting the tabulations take place.
Dr. Palmer, can you remind everyone of those 11 again?
Yes, sure.
Hold on, Dr. Palmer, and I'll put them in the chat as you go.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
We'll put them in the chat. Okay, go ahead.
Equity, communication, safety, bullying, suspensions, consistency, segregation, trust, inclusion, lack of EC staff, and mental health. And I don't know if it matters, Caress, should we have Sylvia enter them in one chat response as opposed to separately, like they're there? You think that'll help?
I think that's fine right there. And then I'll copy them again and then reiterate.
Okay, thank you.
And the answer is yes.
Han puesto en el chat todas las palabras, las 11, entonces yo también ahorita las voy a poner en español también.
So it's slowing down. So I'm thinking that our responses are, I'm thinking that we have our responses in. And so equity is our number one, so it remains real significant to us as it relates to the strategic plan. There's safety, communication, mental and health.
It'll be mental health because
Mental
they've
health.
separated it multiple times, so it's mental health.
Okay. And then suspensions and segregation.
Actually, and lack
Or
of
lack of
EC
EC staff. Yeah. Okay. We could not stick with that 6, could we? We definitely went beyond, and that's okay.
Can you repeat those?
So let me get one more, and I think I'll have the list ready. Give me 1 second. So equity, safety, communication, mental health, lack of EC staff, segregation,
and suspensions
and
inclusion. Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's more than 6, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
well,
6,
actually, consistency is a big one too. It's up there with inclusion. So
yeah. So it looks like even with our second question, we have 11, right? It looks like we still have about a dozen, and so that's okay. But if I could kind of share the top 6: equity, safety, communication, mental health, lack of EC staff, suspensions, inclusion, and is that segregation? And some of those are compete.
Los mayores, los que votaron, la mayoría hubo de equidad, seguridad, comunicación, salud mental, necesidad de más empleados con los niños de discapacidad, suspensión.
Okay. All right. So we have our working areas of focus list, or areas that we should, top issues that we're facing in New Hanover County Schools, with New Hanover County Schools, and then also the issues that should be the highest priority as it relates to the roundtable tonight. And so we can go back to the main gallery, and I am going to Nancy, this is a time where we, looks like we have some time for comments from our group.
So ahora tenemos ya lo que ustedes han dicho, que nos tenemos que enfocar en las escuelas, y ahora queremos escuchar de ustedes y sus opiniones.
Okay, can we invite some comments from the group, someone who would like to provide some more detail around some of their thinking on the top issues?
And if you guys would raise your hand raise your hand with the little icon, then I can click on everyone. That way we can kind of make sure we get everyone who has something to say.
Y pueden hacerle clic a la manita si quieren hablar, para darles a todos la oportunidad de hablar y tener sus comentarios, especialmente en los temas que ustedes dijeron que son la prioridad.
Okay, the first hand that I see is Sandy.
Hey, everybody. I did want to comment on how we chose the word safety and how broad that is. I know that for myself, I had a really difficult time choosing between safety or bullying, and I went with safety because it was a broader context, but I think bullying falls under that. I think bullying is a severe issue in our county that we really need to be looking at.
Thank you. That's helpful to include because safety is extremely broad.
So, la señora Sandy eligió bullying y estaba entre medio de elegir bullying y la seguridad, porque la seguridad es una palabra que se enfoca en muchas áreas, pero sí piensa que bullying es muy importante porque es intimidación de los estudiantes y es un problema ahorita que estamos teniendo en nuestro condado.
We have Sharon also with her hand raised.
Yeah, Sharon, could you share your
Hi.
thoughts?
I wanted to share how I came about with consistency. When it comes to that, I, like the former speakers said, that it's broad, resource allocation, monies within the different schools, how the lines are drawn when it comes to districting, how the teachers and principals are moved about the district. There's no consistency across the board, whether it's in suspensions, whether it's the EC staff. It's just, there is no consistency across the board.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful in clarifying that consistency thought.
Absolutely, thank you.
La señora Sharon habló de la consistencia de la escuela y a eso se refiere a que no hay consistencia cuando se trata de cómo se dan los fondos o cómo se traslada una maestra a otro lugar o de la disciplina también. Entonces deben de haber más formas de consistencia en cómo se hacen las cosas en las escuelas.
Next up, we have
Okay.
Allison.
Allison?
I think that what you're doing here is wonderful to involve the public, be it a parent, a student, staff. This is a positive step in the right direction, and I wanted to commend y'all for that.
Thank you.
Then I wanted to share what Sandy put in the chat. Sharon, I agree about consistency. That can also create significant safety issues for our students and staff.
La señora Allison dijo que está muy emocionada y contenta de que tuviéramos esta reunión y que estuviéramos incluyendo a los empleados, a los padres y a los estudiantes y a la comunidad y nos lo agradece. Y la señora Sharon escribió en el chat que está de acuerdo que la consistencia puede ser muy significante y puede ser un problema de seguridad para los estudiantes y los empleados también.
Any other more detailed thoughts on the categories that we came up with? Or any thoughts in support of ones that did not rise to the top and why they were important to you?
Algunos comentarios sobre los temas que fueron elegidos más y más a fondo hablar de ellos, o algún tema que ustedes eligieron que a lo mejor no fueron de los últimos que se eligieron.
Yes, Sandy?
As far as the suspensions, I think that is also part of a broader conversation about behavior policies with our school and how that is handled district-wide and the equity that's involved in that. I think it also goes back to lack of EC staff, especially when we talk about the seclusion and restraint of our EC students. So I do think behavior is a really big issue that is also a broad topic that covers a lot of these that we selected.
Thank you.
La señora Sandy hablaba de que las suspensiones es un tema que deberíamos de seguir discutiendo con las escuelas y de y una de las razones que puede ser que estemos teniendo problemas con suspensiones por también la necesidad de más trabajadores que trabajan con niños que tienen problemas de comportamiento, y por eso estamos teniendo una crisis de comportamiento en el campo.
And I think,
Ashley next.
and there is also a comment or two in the chat too, I think. Mhm.
Okay,
I was
Ashley?
just gonna say, I feel like segregation and inclusion are can go hand in hand. And just kind of looking at those policies, how do we include all of our children throughout the district in all of our programs and give them the best benefit out of everything.
Then going
Thank you.
oh, sorry, Sandra, do you want to translate that first? Sorry.
La señora Ashley comentó que la inclusión y la segregación van mano en mano, y deberíamos de darles oportunidades a todos y mirar cómo cambiamos las policies para asegurarnos que todos tengan la misma oportunidad.
All right, and then Sharon in the chat said, thanks. As our kids make friends in their neighborhoods, after school care, summer programs, they can see the various learning opportunities, topics, treatments within the school, etc., are so diverse, it causes safety issues, overcrowding, underattendance.
Y la señora Sharon puso en la caja de comentarios, gracias, como nuestros niños se juntan con sus amistades en sus barrios, después de la escuela, después de programas, después en las vacaciones, también están viendo ya y aprendiendo de las oportunidades, los temas y cómo se tratan algunos estudiantes y la diversidad que causan y la seguridad que hemos tenido, y que hay demasiados niños en algunos lugares.
And then Jory was taking notes about college readiness, but Sharon agreed with that. Some schools have something preparing the students, others not so much. So just agreeing with the notes that Jory was taking.
Y también pusieron, hay algunas escuelas que están preparando a los estudiantes y hay otras escuelas que no los están preparando igual.
Joy, did Joy want to add a verbal comment?
Her hand is up. Yeah.
Yes, please. Sorry, those were notes I did not mean to send out because I was trying to write them down before I spoke. Thank you all for letting us speak. I want to touch on just a couple. I have a niece in high school, a nephew in middle school, and a stepdaughter in elementary, so I'm in all of them right now. I would like to second what folks have already said, specifically regarding equity, about resource allocation and how we're handling misconduct and bullying, and also cultural matters and content within curriculum. But I'd also like to quickly touch on communication. I have a blended family, and some of my family is bilingual and predominantly Spanish speaking. That is very important for us to receive consistent communication in both English and Spanish, and that it is translated accurately. And then I would also like to touch on mental health. I really think that that is very important, and making sure that we're connecting students to resources, not just within the school, but outside of the school, as well as their families. I think that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jory habló de los recursos que se proporcionan en las escuelas, que no son todos el tiempo iguales en unas escuelas que otro. Ella tiene sobrinos y sobrinas en 3 diferentes escuelas, y algunos de ellos de las escuelas no tienen los recursos y necesitan a más trabajadores que trabajen con los niños con discapacidades para ayudarles. Y también con comunicación, no hay consistencia en recibiendo comunicación para los padres que hablan solamente el español, y debería de haberlo.
Are there any other comments or additions to what we've heard so far? If not, Josh, I think, it looks like you're.
I'm primed. Yeah, selfishly, I'd like to ask a clarifying question on communication if folks are willing. Jory, thank you for hitting the language equity piece. I think that's vital that we get that right, and we're moving toward that. But if anyone else is willing to share just more specifically how we get after that, is it district communication, is it board, is it from the schools? Take the opportunity, please. Let's hear your thoughts.
Have Tara raising her hand. Tara, you want to share? Or Tara, I'm sorry.
Tara, you're muted.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
And it's Tara. Thank you guys for letting me speak. Yes. I'm just, my biggest thing was communication. And it's kind of within the schools. I feel like the communication to the parents is good from my perspective. But I would like the teachers to feel more supported in communicating with the parents. I feel like there's a little bit of and I don't know, this is just my perspective, but like a fear of the teachers coming to the parents with problems. And having homeschooled over the past year and a half, I understand that there's probably a lot of issues in the classroom. And I think parental involvement in trying to get the kids to cooperate with the teachers would be helpful. And then also communication within the schools amongst the students. We are so social media focused, and we text and we write everything out. We're not very good with face-to-face communication anymore. And so I would love it if the students could deal with their issues, like with peer mediation and that sort of thing, and be able to confront each other about issues they're having regarding bullying or even just miscommunications that happen all the time. I think that's where my communication issue is.
So,
thank you.
El señor Josh pidió a todos, le dijo gracias a Jory por hablar sobre el tema de comunicación, y le gustaría a él saber un poco más de comunicación y cuáles son los problemas que han estado teniendo, ya sea de la escuela, del distrito, de los maestros. Queremos saber para poder ayudar con eso. Y la señora Tara dijo que comunicación en la escuela para ella está bien. Pero las maestras a lo mejor necesitan un poco más de apoyo porque se sienten como que no pueden hablarle a los papás para informarles y pedir ayuda, y quiere ella asegurarse que se sientan bien las maestras para poder hacer eso y pedirles a los padres ayuda, porque los padres pueden involucrarse para ayudar el comportamiento de sus hijos también en la escuela. Y ahora, como todo está en las redes sociales, ella quisiera ver un poco más donde les enseñan a los estudiantes cómo interactuar y ser más sociables con sus compañeros y cómo tratar de solucionar problemas entre ellos.
All right, we have a comment from Sandy, and then we're going to go to hands raised Amy, then Ashley. The comment from Sandy: I agree, Jory, mental health support is desperately needed. New Hanover County has faced multiple crisis situations over the past 3 years since Hurricane Florence, and we have not had a chance to recover from one before the next crisis hits.
La señora Sandy han puesto en la caja de chat que está de acuerdo con Jory, que la salud mental es muy necesitada en el condado porque ha pasado 3 diferentes crisis desde el huracán Florence y no han tenido una oportunidad de recuperarse de cada crisis.
Amy?
Thank you. And I do want to second everybody's statement of how much we appreciate being heard, especially when talking about communication. So thank you. I did pick communication as well as one of my 6. And for me, it was about consistency in communication with parents from across schools. You know, in the workplace, I hear from other parents differing messages or messages that go out through schools at different times. And, you know, that just leads to more confusion. I've personally had a wonderful experience with our school, but I know that isn't always the case.
Thank you.
Amy indica que ella también eligió comunicación y eligió comunicación porque ha escuchado que han habido padres que no están recibiendo la comunicación de una escuela que reciben en otra escuela. Entonces, a veces eso puede causar confusión y eso es importante que los padres estén recibiendo la misma comunicación aunque no estén en las mismas escuelas.
And Ashley?
Regarding communication, I also listed as one of my 6. I think communication from the county then to the teachers. I know like this summer with the summer program, there was very little communication to the teachers prior to the summer program starting. So then the teachers were unable to convey that to the parents. And like for my example, my son was, could have done the summer program, but my question was, well, what about inclusion for, exceptional children, and how was he going to be supported? And the teachers had no answer to that. And because they said they had not received that information from the county. So that was one way of communication. And just also, I guess I'm of the mindset, there can never be too much communication. I would love to hear from teachers daily, from principals, from the county. Like, I want to know more. I want to be involved as much as I can be, because I think that's the best way to support our children. The more I know, the more I can help them and go forth.
La señora Ashley ha dicho que ella también eligió comunicación como una de sus 6 y un ejemplo de eso fue el programa de hora de las vacaciones de los niños. Dice que necesitamos mejorar la comunicación con los maestros para que los maestros entonces se comuniquen con los padres. Y un ejemplo ahora en las vacaciones dijo que le preguntó a la maestra sobre el programa y cómo le iban a ayudar a su niño que tiene una discapacidad, y la maestra no pudo darle la información porque ellos no estaban al tanto de lo que estaba pasando. Entonces, eso es muy importante porque ella quiere ser parte, quiere estar involucrada en las escuelas, y entre más información recibe, más comunicación es mejor porque puede estar más involucrada.
And then going back to the chat, just want to make sure that our Spanish-speaking families who are on the call right now feel comfortable speaking in this forum, and just ask if they have any comments that they would like to share that Sandra could translate for them.
Y para las personas que están aquí escuchando en español, quiero saber si ustedes les gustaría comentar o quieren agregar algo y yo lo puedo traducir.
Have a comment agreeing with Ashley, over communication is good communication.
Y hay un comentario que están de acuerdo con Ashley, que más comunicación es mejor.
And then another comment from Jory, accessible, accurate language with translations in languages outside of English, training front desk personnel to be familiar with potential language needs and necessary documents that may be available in other languages. I recently learned PowerSchool may have a translation option for direct messaging, not just interface languages, and having a training for parents that is accessible and easy to follow on how to use the language features on communication apps would be helpful. Thank you all. I know Mrs. Sarmiento is working on some of these, so thank you as well.
La señora Jory ha puesto que es necesario tener las traducciones en idiomas que sean otros que inglés, y también entrenar a las personas que están enfrente de las escuelas para de cuáles son los documentos necesarios que se ocupan o recursos, y también que el sistema de PowerSchool puede tener una traducción para poder mandar mensajes directamente en otros idiomas, y entrenar a los padres en cómo tener acceso a recursos que pueden ayudarlos a comunicarse con las personas que hablan inglés. Y gracias a todos y gracias a la señora Sarmiento por estar trabajando en algunas de estas cosas.
Question, does the county have a dedicated PIO? And I'm going to assume by PIO you mean a public information officer, and that would be Josh Smith, who's on the call. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Yeah, hi, Ms. Mulford. Yes, absolutely. So I'm the Chief Communications Officer, also known as Public Information Officer. We have a team on the Communications and Outreach Division of about 8 folks, and that ranges from media relations to web services. We've got 46 websites that we're helming, to community outreach, and that's what Sandra helms, social media platforms, flagship platforms, and really the full gambit. And we're trying to really provide the most robust kind of communication capability and suite to our stakeholders. And this is a fantastic opportunity to hear from them. That input goes into the strategic plan. And then alongside the strategic plan, we have a communication plan that we continue to refine with feedback. And that's why I'm very interested in where are the opportunities to improve. And so that's a long answer to a short question, but that's us, that's who you're talking to.
La señora Meredith preguntó que si tenemos a alguien que se dedica al departamento de comunicaciones, y ese es el señor Josh, que acaba de hablar, y él y tenemos a 8 personas en el equipo de comunicación. Tenemos a personas que se encargan de las páginas web, que también se encargan de comunicarse con los medios, de trabajar con la comunidad, de trabajar con, tenemos un plan de emergencia de comunicaciones, aparte del plan estratégico, y en pocas palabras, ese es el equipo y estamos tratando de ver qué formas y dónde podemos mejorar.
And then we have just a few more minutes left of comments. So I want to give an opportunity for anyone who hasn't spoken yet. If you have anything you want to share, any additional information from what was presented from Dr. Palmer or Nancy or Dr. Burgess before we move on, or before I take these last couple comments.
Tenemos unos minutos que nos quedan, así que si tienen algún otro comentario que quieran agregar antes de que terminemos la sesión.
And Sandy, you can go ahead with your question. I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate what Ashley said about over communication and how important that is, especially when it involves an emergency situation. We have oftentimes had situations where parents have not found out that their child's school has been locked down until well after it was over, but they're getting texts from their students that there is a crisis situation going on. And as a parent, that can be really scary and upsetting. So I think it's really important that we can time that a little bit better. Also, the school website is a very difficult website to use, and it is very difficult to find the information that we need. So I would encourage our district to look at reworking that website so it's a little more user-friendly.
So la señora Sandy ha dicho que la comunicación es muy importante y han habido ocasiones donde una de las escuelas ha estado en una emergencia donde los niños no pueden salir ni nadie puede entrar. Entonces, ellos no recibieron comunicación hasta después de que se terminó, pero estaban recibiendo textos de sus hijos y eso para un padre puede ser muy alertador. Entonces, mejorando en eso y dejándoles dar esa comunicación desde temprano, y también en las páginas de web, que es muy difícil tratar de encontrar lo que están buscando, so por favor que si se pueden revisar y mejorar.
And just a comment from Ms. Craybill. Meredith, you can meet the Communications Department if you watch the September 16th Family Communications Committee meeting on NHCS TV YouTube page. And then one final comment from Jory, and then I'll pass it over to Josh after Sandra does the translation. This falls under equity, livable, equal wages for non-teaching school personnel. I know this has been in the works, but I hope the push for higher pay continues. Thank you.
Uno de los mensajes que se puso en la caja fue de la señora Craybill. Le dijo a Meredith que puede conocer el departamento de comunicación si ve la reunión que se tomó en lugar el 16 de septiembre en el canal de YouTube de las escuelas. Y la señora Jory puso que está debajo de equidad, que estén pagando a sus empleados que no son maestros una paga donde puedan sostenerse y que ella sabe que están trabajando actualmente en esto, pero pues muchas gracias.
Okay, so I'll start to wrap up by saying, oh my gosh, the technology worked. This is fantastic. I think we hit a lot of firsts tonight. We got real-time polling. We got a large audience. We're muting and unmuting folks. Everything held up. Thanks to the team to make that happen. So that's really exciting. I think I could be mistaken, but it might also be the first time where we had real-time translation as well. So fantastic. I think it's great. A big thank you to Dr. Palmer, Ms. Hunter, Dr. Burgess, thank you for facilitating the conversation. I think it's invaluable for the opportunity to provide input into your work, and I know that we're anxiously awaiting getting that strategic plan in motion. And finally, before I turn it over to Ms. Craybill, and you're gonna have to translate this, Sandra, you're a rock star. That was phenomenal. It was a lot of work. You did amazing. So with that, and when you're done, Ms. Craybill, over to you.
Qué bueno, estoy emocionado que la tecnología haya funcionado, y que nada haya pasado. Esta es la primera vez tenemos un equipo grande de personas que se reúnen y que estamos permitiendo para tener conversación y en tiempo real. También la traducción, interpretación que hemos tenido. Y gracias a todos los que y facilitaron la conversación para recibir información que es importante y para tener está emocionado para tener el plan estratégico pronto de la doctora Palmer y de Nancy Hunt y de todos los demás que pudieron ayudar hoy.
Okay, so is that me next?
Yes.
It is. I think Sandra left off the part. I'm not fluent, but I don't think she
Hang
told
on,
everyone
because
she's
I'm
rock
going to
star.
do my best to add that in.
I did not. Sorry, I left that out.
Okay, so tell me if I'm saying this correctly. Eras una estrella del rock.
Yes.
Does that mean rock star? Does that mean that?
Yes.
Okay, well, yay. So I Google Translate works on my phone. So yes, thank you, Sandra, so much for doing that. It took us a little longer, but it was so valuable. And I picked up some words that I was trying to listen and, picking up a new word, every time. So that's good for us. So yeah, so folks, this was awesome. This was a great Family Communications Committee meeting. And what I would like to do before we leave, if you could take a few minutes and, or take a minute, just to put in the chat some ideas for future Family Communications Committee meetings, what topics you might like to discuss. In the past, our format has been, a committee that actually sits and talks about issues, but we're kind of in the transformation phase right now of a lot of our board committees. And I'm really liking, just gathering as much input as we can so that we have things to work on, and our strategic plan will help us with that enormously, once we get that. But if you have any ideas for future communications, and the format in which you'd like to see them, did this work out? Did the polling, the word outporting? I love seeing the words. That to me, because it's just real time. Or would you like to try and do some in-person, town hall or roundtable, kind of meetings? So I'm just interested in what you all are thinking. So if you could take a minute and just drop those in the chat for us, then that would be great.
Estoy emocionada de que haya sido tan buena reunión hoy de comunicación para la familia. Les quiero pedir que se esperen unos minutos y agreguen más información a la caja, por favor, de su opinión. Quiero pedir opiniones para los futuros comités de comunicación familiar, cuáles foros ustedes prefieren, ya sea virtual, en persona, mesa redonda como hoy tuvimos. Vamos a tener nuevos miembros del comité y cómo y procesaremos las solicitudes de los que apliquen. Las aplicaciones del nuevo plan estratégico el próximo y los próximos pasos, ojalá nos ayuden con esto. Entonces, por favor, indiquen cuáles son algunos temas que necesitamos hablar un poco más en las próximas reuniones y cómo y qué formas ustedes piensan que deberíamos de reunirnos.
Ms. Craybill, can I add one question to that question?
Yes, you may.
I'm a parent and my son is wandering around in the background, wondering when dinner's going to get done. I'm curious if this is the best time, or if there is a better time. If we were to continue doing virtual formats, is there a better time of day that you would prefer?
La señora Adams quiere preguntar si esta sería el mejor horario para ustedes o si hay algún horario que es mejor para ustedes, y lo pregunta porque ella tiene a un hijo que está esperando para comer, entonces quiere escuchar sus opiniones.
Okay, I am reading as fast as I can on all of the comments there. I'm hoping that my wonderful helper, Caress, will be collating all that for me so that I don't have to strain my old lady eyes in my classes and try and read and hold us up. We can't dismiss because I'm not reading fast enough. But so it looks like we're a little bit across the board. Yeah, I love talking in person. I love seeing people and their face, their body language, and they to see me. We will look at all those and take that under advisement, for our next meeting in November. But yeah, so I'm going to close out, and then I'm going to, ask, Stephanie Adams, who is my counterpart on this team. This was great. I love hearing, from so many different voices, and some of you didn't put your voice out loud, but I'm sure you put your words into the Wordle. And so I've been watching your face, and everybody who's put their face up so I can see you and watch you, thank you very much for that. And, please stay engaged, in any way that you can with us on the board, with your teachers, with your principals, with senior staff, and all of their wonderful support people that work in their departments, because there's more than just the board and Dr. Faust, who are running this school system. And in fact, they're the ones running the school system, not the board members. I'm just happy to be a conduit of that information so that we get good, accurate information out to you as quickly as we can, as accurately as we can, and in a language that you can understand. So Stephanie Adams from Stephanie Craybill, do you have any things to bring us home?
Just a quick thank you to everyone that participated this evening. We started doing roundtables pre-COVID, and the information that we were able to gather from those parents directly and those family members directly was incredibly helpful with communications planning. And I'm very excited that we're able to be doing this again, because your voice really matters and your experiences matter. We need to hear it from all levels. Sometimes we get a view just from one space, and, being able to hear it from your perspective is incredibly important. So thank you for taking the time this evening to share that important information. And thank you, communications team. I'm just going to echo rockstar for all of you. This was fantastic. Thank you for putting this together. And Ms. Craybill, I know a lot of work went into this. Wonderful job. Let's keep them going.
Okay, so who has the best dinner? Because I'll be over on my way home. Yeah. Thank you all for coming, and I look forward to hearing from you again in the future. Have a good evening.
Gracias a todos por venir.